everyone. Welcome to today's webinar titled Design 102, Waterproofing and Finishing Design Elements. I'm Jim Olson with the National Tile Contractors Association, and I want to welcome you and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to attend today's webinar sponsored by Schluter Systems. Before I introduce today's speaker, I want to remind you that during the webinar you'll be muted. Please use the questions area on your computer to type in your questions, and we'll answer those questions at the end of this presentation. If the audio on your computer is poor, call the number on the invite to this webinar and listen on your phone. All NTCA webinars are available to watch at any time on the NTCA YouTube channel shortly after these webinars are presented. This will give you easy access to watch and or share all current and past programs at your convenience. All right, here we go. I'm very excited. Got a chance to spend the last week in Orlando with this gentleman here, and along with about 45,000 other people at coverings. So here we go. All right, today's presenter, Andrew Acker, is Schluter Systems Director of Education, where he develops an education program and is the lead presenter at the Innovation Workshops. His focus is developing workshops and classes that provide the tiling community with access to industry-approved tiling methods and an overview of how Schluter products can can increase the durability of these installations. And they do it easily also. So before joining the company in 1997, Andy was a tile installer for 20 years with over half his experience as a California State C54 licensed tile contractor. Andy also serves on the board of directors for the Ceramic Tile Education Foundation. Andy, I'm looking forward to this. Welcome, and hit it. Let's go.
All right. Well, thanks, Jim. Thanks for the introduction there. And welcome everyone who's tuned in for this Design 102. If you've been around for a little bit, you saw Design 101. I think it was probably about this time last year. I did one on the other Design 101. So this will be furthering those concepts and principles and so forth. So I'm just happy to see that I'm not wearing the same shirt that I am in my photograph. I did that last year. That was kind of funny. But anyway, yeah, so let's jump in. This is accredited. So if you're looking for your continuing education unit point, this does meet that requirement. So you can self-report on that with the IDCC or the AIA. All right, so what are we going to run through? Well, we're going to look at the current bathroom design trends and see what's going on out there, trending from designers, from consumers, homeowners, builders, so forth. We're going to look at the required components for a topically waterproof shower system. Last time, we looked at the two general categories of waterproofing methods recognized by the tile industry. One was a sealed system, or topically applied waterproofing that the tile bonds directly to that waterproofing. The other was the old traditional water in, water out. So we covered that last time. You can always go back and look at that, but this time we're going to start with the topical and look at where those are going. They're quite prevalent now out in the industry. And then we're going to look at some of the other optional design elements that you would put into a shower to enhance these showers and so forth. So that's what we're going to look at. Top design trends currently. Then we're going to look at some waterproofing options that we have. Then shower drains, the type of drains we have available to us, and how you work with those two different ones, really. Just two general categories of that. The different kinds of bases that you can put that you actually stand on in the shower environment. And then how do we enter in? That's always a key element and very popular these days. We'll look at the no barrier, the curbless type of look. Then we'll get into some of the other design elements that the consumer, the designer really wants, and then finish it off with some profiles and finishes. So, well, if you look back at the old style bathroom, last time I was in Jim's house, I took this picture of his bathroom. And you can see that, he needed to replace his P-trap with the chrome one and probably find a toilet seat that matched the pink, because it's such a lovely bathroom, Jim. It's very nice there. But this kind of gives you the idea of the old style. This was called high style back there. We're looking at close to I'd like to say about 80 years ago, and coming forward a few years, a few decades from that period. This is when you
Andy,
saw this.
that's
Yeah,
not fair. This is Art Deco. It's beautiful.
yeah.
I like that toilet seat.
Well, you do like that toilet seat. You but I
All
thought
right, I'm done. I'm done.
no, I thought we'd all appreciate getting a little glimpse into Jim's life, and I love that wallpaper, by the way. This is just really grand. So, I know you could be upset with me, but I believe your wife Mary's going to be more upset with me if she finds out that I said this is your bathroom. It is not the bathroom from the Olson's house. But anyway, this gives us a good idea of what the style was back then. And it was pretty utilitarian. Yes, there was a design to it and there was some style, but we have made some drastic changes since then to what a bathroom looks like with the high design. And here's a better example. Very appealing. You can see that we've done a lot of things here to add functionality and design to this. And it is very functional for current and for people who are aging in place. And we'll kind of look at that too to say anybody of any ability or disability could use this space. And you can see how nice it is. So we're going to look at the function and the style because we really do need both the nice appeal, the aesthetics, but it needs to work right too. And that's been a bit of a challenge until the advent of sealed systems or topical waterproofings. And we'll touch on that here a little bit later. But some of the design trends, of course, are large porcelain panels. Jim was talking about that we were both at the big show, the covering show in Orlando, Florida last week. And boy, oh boy, large format tile and large porcelain thin panels are everywhere. A lot of design, very dramatic looks and so forth. Certainly this is something that's going to continue to trend, really just starting to take off now, believe it or not. Also, that look like natural materials. We've got wood look, we've got stone looks, we've got concrete look of those. So those again are absolutely trending. If you were able to look at the show, if you happen to visit the last week, or you're just paying attention to what's going on design sites and so forth, you'll see a lot of this going on. And of course, very high design trending. The encaustic tile, the ones with the patterns, are still out there being utilized quite often in these type of spaces. And then also the trims, trims that are a little departure from what we were used to have. The matte black, of course, all the matte colors are very popular in all of the fixtures and all of the hardware that you would get. And then also the metallic finishes. And this is not the old style brass, shiny brass that we all just got done tearing out here just a few years back. But this is a very nice metallic, kind of the gold tones and much richer tones that are out there too. So some of these trends are definitely going. And you can see from here that there are point drains that actually match the finishes too. So you can tie everything in if you look at the drain grates that you can see there in the bottom of the shower pans. But how about no shower pan at all? How about having the floor just slope down to a linear drain and have that open concept? So again, open concept is still very popular in the bathrooms, taking hold. And if you look at this closely, down below the niche, there is a line drain that's very well concealed with the tileable drain grate, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So this again is an open design. The invisible drain here, you can see that the drain is not of any particular finish. It just matches the tile because it is the tile. You can see two lines that are left open there for the drainage, for the water there. That meets flow rate, by the way, so you don't have to be concerned about that. So the invisible drain certainly is there. The other design trends, custom elements put into this. You know, this is a spa or retreat-like environment. It's just not a place to get ready for the day or clean up. It is really transcended to something different here. So you can see some of the other design elements, and we'll take a look and see how you can achieve these for both the design and the function that we talked about. Make certain they're waterproof, that they're going to last a lifetime here. Another trend, as I alluded to earlier, is how many people are not going to move out of their home. If they're doing any remodeling within their home, they're going to make certain that the design meets not only their current physical needs, but future physical needs. So this is a tremendous part of our population. Just a few years ago, it was about 15% of the US population, and within another few years, it's going to be 20% of our population is in this age group, and they are looking at doing these things in these bathrooms. So certainly a huge opportunity to introduce universal design. Here's some universal design elements. No curb to get into the shower, cantilever vanities so you could slide right underneath them. Perhaps if you're in a wheelchair, nothing to knock your knees on. Of course, the benches and the niches that are accessible. All of these things not only are design elements that most anyone would want into their bathroom, but also the aging in place, the universal design trend here. These meet those needs too. So it's kind of a nice convergence for us to look at these. When we looked at universal design or an access shower before, we saw something very antiseptic and maybe industrial and not really aesthetically pleasing. And that certainly doesn't have to be the way. And I think these pictures lend to that. Okay, so yes, design meets function. We can build all of these things that look really great and the consumer loves them and the design community is really really wants to incorporate these into this environment, but they've got to work right. And that's where the bonded waterproof systems work so well, because the traditional water in, water out really couldn't manage this water as well as the sealed up systems that you can see peeking out from underneath the tile layer here in this particular picture. And we'll develop that more. So what are our options when we're waterproofing? Well, let's talk about moisture management first. The reason we use the term moisture management and not just simply waterproofing is because it's a more holistic approach, a more comprehensive approach to water, because we're looking at it in more than just its liquid form. We also have to be aware of it in a vapor form as far as vapor drive into our wall cavities. This really started happening here just a few decades ago when we started building our houses so tight for energy efficiency that they don't breathe. They're not drafty anymore, but they still need to breathe a bit. So now we have to incorporate a vapor retarder membrane onto the surface in these wet areas that will retard how fast the vapor can drive through. We don't want to stop it completely. That would be a sick house. It has to breathe a bit, but we always want it to be on the side where it never accumulates quicker than it can dissipate back out. So that's the balance we're looking for. And that's where these topical waterproofings are lending themselves to both waterproofing in liquid form and in a vapor. So when we look at this, the old assemblies let water pass through them, where the new assemblies are actually sealing them up and not letting any water get into the tile assembly or below the tile to begin with. So quite a fundamental difference. And we can see what happens if we don't do proper moisture management here. The water gets into moisture sensitive building materials and really wreaks havoc in these areas, certainly in a design element as you're seeing here, a little corner bench in this shower. Also, this is what we're talking about having a completely sealed up system. This goes directly on several different types of backing, and then the tile is bonded directly to these waterproofing elements like this membrane you're seeing here, and that seals it up so you're not going to have any moisture intrusion in a liquid or a vapor form get in past the tile veneer. So what's going on out there right now? Again, the show was, these were prevalent everywhere you looked. There were sheet applied membranes, there were waterproof building panels, most of them a lightweight foam core board that were on the market in various layers in them that are allowing us to build these directly over the framing, or if there's a panel on the substrate already, then we just simply put the membrane over the top of that, and we basically end up with the same thing, a nice sealed system ready to accept the tile layer. So sheet applied, and so many out there on the market from so many manufacturers. You've got plenty to choose from out there. They're all very thin, very pliable, lay up on the substrates, whether it's vertical or horizontal, very nicely, seals up the whole system. They're inorganic, which is nice because there's no potential food source for mold or mildew to grow. And they all meet the American National Standards Institute, the category for load bearing bonded waterproof membranes, which you see is 118.10, 11810. So the nice thing about these are they incorporate with drains that are specifically designed to incorporate with waterproofing up at the surface. Before these were available on the market from the tile industry, the plumbing industry afforded us all of our drains, and they were all designed for that pan liner or that bladder, that sometimes a copper pan, could be layers of roofing felt, it could be a vinyl, it could be a chlorinated polyethylene. There were a lot of membranes out there, but they incorporated under the mud bed. What we needed was a waterproofing that sits on top and protects the whole assembly from ever getting any water, and we needed a drain to accommodate those. So these are actually called integrated bonding flanges. That's what you'll be looking for when you search around to see what you'll need. You can see it goes over various substrates, drywall, backer board, masonry. There's all kinds of things they'll go over, and the tile bonds directly to them. Same thing with the foam building panels. They are unaffected by moisture. They won't warp, they won't rot, they stay very stable, and you can actually achieve fairly flat, plumb, and level and square objects, which of course the tile setter likes to tile on substrates that are flat and plumb and level and square. It makes their life much easier. So these, again, have really grown in popularity here. Been around in Europe for quite some time. The company I work for introduced one. There was only one other manufacturer in the industry in the US at that time, but now they're prevalent. So take a look at this type of building panel, certainly. And again, they can go right over the stud frame walls. They're easy to fasten on, and then you're ready to just treat the penetrations and the seams, and you've got a totally waterproof and ready to go kind of substrate. You can see showing how that process works here. So how about the drains that are out there? Well, there's really two types of drains that we're really dealing with now. One is the point drain, which means it's a centralized location somewhere on the shower pan floor, and all the substrates, all the different slopes slope down to it to get the water to drain out. The other one is the linear drain, which allows you more flexibility in design as far as the size of the tile you put on the tray. With the point drain, you're limited to probably a 3 or 4, maybe 5-inch square tile or smaller. But when you get to a linear drain, because the pans or the trays, the floor is one flat plane sloping down towards a long drain, you're not limited. You can use virtually any size tile on those. So those are very, very popular. And then where you place them, we'll look at that and see why linear drains are very popular there. So you can see here they're made up of several different components that accommodate the surface waterproofing, and then the drain assembly goes in, the actual grate goes in and is flushed out with the tile veneer itself. So it makes it very simple to install. You know, they're all watertight, as I mentioned earlier. Now, as far as the options, when you look around in the industry out there and see all of the options available as far as colors and finishes, you can see I'm just going to scroll through a few here to give you an example of some of them, from something as standard as a stainless steel or chrome up to all of your different metallic finishes there. Also in aluminum, you can get some of these looks also. This one's very, very popular here, where you don't have to worry about matching the hardware or anything in the bathroom, the fixtures. It's just another piece of the tile goes on there. So that's something that you could take a look at. And look at how creative this was as far as layout here on the actual shower tray, centering the tile and the design right there to have that as a kind of a focal point, but there is no finished grate of any color. It's actually the tile itself. Also, we'll look at in the point drain, the other types of finishes, and then some of the styles that can go out there where you can add a little bit more of a design than something very standard like some of those other punch outs that I showed you earlier. So here's some of the other ones that are available, also in finishes where it will blend in. Now, excuse me, you can see here that there's also large format tile that doesn't come with any trim. So the opportunity to match a trim to the tile to have it blend in, and then have the grate actually match it. And look at the shelf on the wall too. So these are all incorporated to actually blend. So a lot of color matching going on here too. And again, the linear drains, these come in various lengths. sometimes in very short increments, so you can really get them wall to wall between your two vertical walls, whether it's a bench face or another wall or two walls to step through, whatever you have. Anywhere from less than 2 feet to over 6 foot in length, plenty of different options there. You can see that these do tie in up at the surface with the surface waterproofing that we're incorporating using either the membranes or the boards. The different options here again, the one on the far right there, the tile one again, is very, very popular where you don't see anything. It's sort of like an infinity pool kind of look. It's almost invisible except for the line around there. And then again, you can get these grates to match other parts of fixtures and hardware and so forth that go into this area. Now, where do you put this drain? You can put it at the back wall underneath the plumbing. You can put it at the center, which actually reduces how much buildup or elevation height you have to get a slope down. And the one that's very popular, because we're doing away with the curbs, which we'll get to in a minute here, we're actually putting the drain at the entry and intercepting the water before it flows out onto the floor. This allows us to have the whole floor at a very low elevation when you actually enter the bathroom. It's at that same elevation and the drain is at that same elevation. And I know it's hard to see in this picture, but it actually slopes up as it goes back into the shower to the opposite wall that's behind the actual line drain. So that's a nice design element too. Here again are the more of the invisible look. Certainly you can kind of see the one because there are two grout lines, if you will, missing. That's where the water's going to drain. It's at the entrance as you walk into this, and then there's a stationary splash guard panel put there. Again, a nice design element that's incorporated quite often. And then you can see in that wood look, it's almost hard to see where the drain is because it's in that back wall. That's why we put that little inset so you can actually go, oh yeah, there is a drain in that back wall. It's interesting to see people go in and say, well, it's a beautiful shower, but how's the water going to get out of here? Then you have to show them, well, the drain's here. It's at the back wall. It's just this little line here where the water evacuates. In many cases, if you do the curbless and you do put that drain and you have no curb and maybe the drain's at the front or at the back like this picture, you may need a secondary floor drain. So just check your local ordinances to see if that's a requirement where you're actually going to do the work. So required shower components, a waterproof membrane, or maybe a board, a building panel like the foam core waterproof boards we took a look at, and the integrated bonding flange drains in either a line drain or a point drain. These are going to be key elements to building these sealed systems to really match not only the design you want, but the function that's required in this wet area. So let's look at some of the shower bases that are out there. There's prefab shower trays. Those are really a lot of different sizes and shapes available on the market, growing in popularity because of they're very lightweight. They take a fraction of the time to install. And these days where we're really looking for time elements and efficiencies in preparation for tile, this would certainly be a way to go. The nice thing about these bases is they still can be incorporated to mortar bed. You might have an odd shaped shower area. You might be putting a wet room in where the whole bathroom is going to be waterproof and in essence be the shower stall. So you may need to still do the mortar beds. So these drains, whether they're line drains or point drains, do accommodate a mortar bed too, the old traditional way to support the tile and get the slope down to the drain, whether it's a point drain like here or a line drain. So lots of different sizes in both the line drain trays and the point drain trays from various manufacturers on the market. So a lot of flexibility there for you to spec how those work. These are easy to cut, and they're easy to actually add on to. Some manufacturers actually make add-on panels that you can just add onto on the outside edge of the tray. Other times you can just use a mortar, or you have different ways to go about doing these, but they can be cut down to size and you can extend them out if you haven't found one that's exactly the size that you're looking for. So also on the market now are these extremely thin trays that only require that you make room for about 3/4 of an inch of recess in the floor, which is typically on a wood structure, the thickness of the subfloor. So you can remove the subfloor from being on top of the joist and set strips of the subfloor in between the joists on ledgers, and then you can gain 3/4 of an inch. And then when you put a membrane on the floor, it'll abut right up to this tray, and you can do the transition from what was originally the wet area and traditionally the dry area, which is blurred now that we've taken out the curb and the door. So we do need to waterproof continuously out there, and this is going to allow us to do those. And there's these thin trays on the market that are very, very thin, even at their high point. So how about at the entrance? So we do have curbed entries. Those have been around for quite some time, and they're still being used. I have noticed the curbs are getting shorter, and that's okay. Again, check with your jurisdiction to see what your minimum height of a curb is, if there's even a requirement. In many cases, there isn't. But the curbless entry, that one is getting so popular. And just a note on that. If you're actually building a curbless shower, just call it that. Don't use the term barrier-free unless you're actually building an ADA compliant shower area. And that not only slope ratio, but maneuvering area and where the niches are and where the grab bars are, and is there a bench and what's the dimension of the bench. There's a lot that comes into play. Where the mixer valve is, where the handheld wand is and the handles and all that stuff come into play. So just a cautionary note, I tell tile setters all the time, don't say barrier-free unless you truly mean barrier-free. If you're just taking the curb out, let's just stick to that term and call it, we're going curbless. That'll be good enough. So we're going to look at both of these, and you can see here the curbless one actually has a line drain at the wall, at the plumbing wall, where the curbed entry has a central point drain. And again, it's not hard or fast rule for this being the way you have to approach those. You can put either one in either location. The nice thing is, if you do incorporate a curb, you can leave that up to just one tray tile setter to put that in where you want to put it at the dimensions you want to install it. These do get cut down quite often, not only to length, but to height and width. But you can't actually put a curb in with a point drain or a line drain. But here's what everyone is really requiring and really wanting these days. If you ask a consumer what they want this look. They want to just continue the tile right in from the bathroom into this area. And we can do this now that we have these topical waterproofings. That's one of the key elements of getting away from the water in, water out, where the membrane was under the mortar bed. We're just topically waterproofing. We're putting the waterproofing up here on the surface, tying to the drains that are at the surface, and that allows us to continue the waterproofing right out of what was traditionally the wet area onto the area that was traditionally dry, which we really can't call that traditionally dry any longer now that we've taken out the curb and the doors and so forth. So this is nice to be able to tie this all together. Other components for curbless entries, you may not be able to recess your floor, so there are ramps available. And by the way, these are ADA slope ratio. They do meet that requirement, so you can abut these to the front of a tray that you set right on top of the subfloor. This could be a design element. This could be something that you need because you can't recess the floor because it's a structural type of issue that's coming up. Maybe just a budgetary concern where it adds a lot of cost to actually recess the floor after the fact. So these ramps are growing in popularity too. And again, curbless entries there showing the drain at the front, intercepting the water before it runs out, and then also some profiles that are out there. So we'll look at all of these. You can see here, this is one of the particular ramps that is available out here. That's going to give you the bird's eye view of the dimension of it, around 12 inches wide, about 48 inches long, this particular manufacturer. And you can see they slope from almost nothing, 1/4 of an inch, up to 1 1/4. And if you had one of the thinner trays, you just cut off the thicker part of the tray to match up with the elevation of the thin tray where it abuts to it. So it might not even be 12 inches deep there. So keep those in mind. You can see where this one has been put into this. This is a big 6x6 shower that actually has a steam generating unit and a multi-tiered bench, which we can look at here in a minute. So here again is the drain at the front. This does reduce the shower assembly at the height at the entrance. It actually reduces the entire floor assembly elevation down to really low as you come into the room. So you might incorporate a profile into here. It might abut to the splash guard as you're seeing in this picture. So there are some profiles that are out there that will provide just a little bit of a dam just to keep the water from running out any further if you do actually put these type in. There's one here that actually is collapsible. If you roll something over or step on it and then it pops back up, that's available. How about the inset picture in the circle here? You can see there's a little profile there that does just a little bit of a reduction down, very small reduction, maybe an 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 of an inch elevation change from outside the shower to inside the shower. That will certainly hold the water back in there too. You can actually have up to 1/4 of an inch of straight up elevation and still meet the ADA requirements. So if you go above 1/4, then you're going to want a slope ratio of 1:2. And if it's above 1/2, then you need a slope ratio of 1:12. So again, all in the ADA if you want to look that up. But these are just ways to incorporate a little bit of a dam to keep the water in there. Not so important here where the drain isn't you can't. It's not in the shot here because it's somewhere else. But if it was right up against here because the shower was sloping down towards the front of the drain, this is a good idea to put either something like this in or one of these in right here at the entrance, just outside of where the drain fits. All right, so how about some of these optional design elements we took a look at? Certainly everyone enjoys to have a niche in there for some additional storage. So those are nice. They're available in different sizes. There's kinds of shelves. And then how about making those custom design elements that we looked at a little bit earlier, just a few minutes ago? So there are niches available in various sizes and shapes from various manufacturers made of various types of material. But the nice thing is they're all waterproof, and most of them go attach right to any kind of framework that you have in the wall already. So they can actually be put in pretty quickly, pretty efficiently, and they give you the waterproofing you need, and you can add that design element right into place. And here's some prefabricated ones that have been put in place here. You can see in the lower left-hand corner where you see the handheld wand on the adjustable rail. That's actually 2 niches that have been stacked on top of each other, where the one in the bigger picture over there is actually just 2 pieces of tile that have been finished off on the edges with profiles to cover up that exposed edge of the tile, and made a double niche here with a very thin exposure there as far as the shelf. And then just the one there with the orange tile in the back, showing you some of the design elements where you could mix and match your tile. Again, optional components is the niche and the shower shelves. Those are available out there too. They can match your trim. You can match all of the hardware in your shower, or they can blend in with the tile if you have that desire. So how about different types of shelves where you add just a little bit more storage space? And these are very simple to put in. They just have small tabs on the back of them that literally slide right into the grout line. And then you just put a clear silicone seal around them to hold them in place. And these, as you can see, can match the actual drain grate style also. And so you can tie those all in. So just giving you some ideas of the different things that are available as far as the shapes, the designs, the finishes that are available out there on the market. These here are very popular. There's a couple of stainless steel brushed ones there, but the other ones are all designed to match with the tile. They actually are not solid color. They're more of a variegated color, and they actually have some texture, very much like the tile that you're going to be selecting to be put in these places. And here's some of those shelf designs going in place here, whether they're in a niche or in a corner, or just placed somewhere, maybe on the plumbing wall or another wall where you could add even a little bit more storage there. Also, these custom design elements with the foam building panels. You no longer have to make these type of design elements out of traditional building materials, which again are moisture sensitive, and you have to go to great lengths to protect them from ever getting any water on them. These elements here from various manufacturers will can allow you to incorporate these elements right into a wet area. You don't have to be concerned about them at all. You can see the type of design elements that you could do here, whether it's the tub deck itself, a bench, pony walls, niches, even vanities can all be made out of these type of materials. So Here's what it looked like when it was all ready for tile, all sealed up and basically waterproof right there, folks. That is a waterproof shower ready to use. And the tile is simply a decorative wear surface. And by the way, that's all the tile has ever been, right? We do understand that tile, once you tile something in grout, it doesn't make it waterproof. A lot of the water sheets off of it, it's water resistant, but we're really counting on the assembly behind the tile to manage the moisture in both liquid and vapor form. That's ready to go there on the left, and you can see it finished on the right-hand picture. Again, here's a before and after of that other shot I showed you here, where you actually have a floating bench and a niche that's custom. So not one that's made from prefabricated niches, but one that was built to exacting standards and sizes from the designer. That's awfully nice. And then you can see the other elements in there as far as the half walls, the pony walls, the curbs in place here, and so forth. The tub deck before and after, and look at that nice soaking tub there in the lower images there. The type of things that you can make with this stuff, a lot of flexibility in design here. Custom benches again, you can see the view of a single bench there against a wall. Then you see a two-tiered bench. I made mention of this one a few slides earlier, where it was a 6x6 shower tray area with the ramp going in, and then a two-tiered bench. This is all made out of all the foam core boards, all waterproof, ready for the tile. And you can see the steam generator on the back wall there, just above where you can see the point drain in that particular shower. Custom niches again, we took a look at that. You can take these niches, you can cut them down, you can add on to them, or you can build custom ones, whatever you want to do. Really, the design possibilities are endless here. This was kind of neat. We actually had someone send us a picture of this that they built to match just the size of one exact tile. Pretty creative. I thought I'd share that with you. I thought that was quite a undertaking there, and I thought it looked pretty nice. All right, so how about finishing this whole thing off? Well, we looked at that tile earlier that I said was Jim's bathroom, but it's not. But they're still out there. The reason this tile was selected is it came with all the trim pieces we need to finish off the edges, turn corners, and so forth, and make it look nice and professional and clean. Well, we got away from a lot of that tile trims. It's still available, but it's really limited on what design elements you have, what size tile, what kind of finish are on there. So this is where the profiles and the finishes really do take over. You're not limited. The design possibilities are endless now that you have all of these profiles of various colors and finishes and textures to complement your tile or stand out and be bold. So we're going to look at bold and we're going to look at blend as we go here. So what are on trend right now? Certainly the matte finishes that we're talking about, the grays, the creams, the bronzes, all of these colors are certainly very much for a contrasting look. You can see how bold this is here with this particular drain here in the shower floor, and it goes with the mixer valve and the shower head and some of the other elements in there. Here you can see, it's hard to see, but there's actually a channel in here which allows you to set the glass without drilling any holes in your waterproofing. It's very simple for the shower door or glass company to come in and install these panels. The channel comes in various widths, so it will accommodate the different thicknesses of your stationary splash guard panels that you can put in these environments. And then here's a tile that you can hardly tell is got a profile that goes around it, just simply covering up the exposed edge and having it blend in. So also, these are design elements, but they're actually a function element. These are movement joints that have been incorporated into the corners, both floor to wall and vertical inside corners, where you need a break in plane, needs to be a soft joint, not something grouted. So keep that in mind too. Here's another one where you actually have more of a bold statement. You can tell from the tile, it's fairly dramatic, and these do blend in and kind of make a statement there along with the other plumbing fixtures. Also here, this is also another bold element. You can see a very dramatic tile installation here in these applications. and it does just flow nicely with your design. You don't have to compromise your design. Also here, another one here where you have the grate and the matte black and the tileable grate here. So the tile is continuous down on the shower floor, but then you have some matte black to complement the other fixtures there. Floral design, there's lots of designs that come out there and lots of colors where you can actually have this more blend in. You can see this on the shower floor and the trim around the niche. Again, here's another one and another stone gray, again, which complements the tile on the walls and then matches the other fixtures. And then here, curve in the cream, that does a nice job of complementing the actual color palette here. So you can see here that we don't need both the style and the function, and we really have very few limitations these days as far as getting the style we want, but getting the function in this wet area that we absolutely are required to have. So it's all due to the advent of these topical waterproofings, these surface waterproofings that you can achieve with either a liquid applied, a trowel applied, or we really featured sheet applied and foam core board panel applied, where you can actually get all of your material totally waterproof and then the tile bonds directly to it. So you can do your one-of-a-kind custom showers. You can do something that's a little more standard, but these are the elements that you should really be looking for, both on the design end and the function end. So there we go. I think we covered a lot of ground there in just about 42 minutes or so, 41 minutes. So I'll end there unless we have any questions, Jim, or comments.
Yeah, you know, Andy, that was a lot of great design information, and it's nice to see what we can offer our end users in different colors, design, shapes, patterns. There's a lot of great things there. That was fantastic. I do have some questions for you, just a couple, and I think they're simple, but so the first one is, can for a zero entry shower, is the back pitch required on the outside of the shower floor?
It's not, what they're talking. Yeah, I know what they're talking about, Jim.
Okay.
Because there are some times when the soap suds will create enough of a bridge for water to get out past the line drain that you've put as at the front of the drain. So yeah, it's always a good idea. It's not required, but I do recommend it, and many manufacturers that are offering front placement line drains are strongly suggesting you do just a little bit of an elevation. That's why I showed those few pictures there with a bit of maybe just a touch of a slope or maybe just a little bit of an abrupt upright. I'll tell you, I've seen plenty of applications where just an 1/8 of an inch of elevation change from right outside of the line drain placement, just an 1/8 of an inch abrupt before it goes out on the rest of the wall. It can be abrupt, straight up as a 90. It can be tipped over as a little bit of a ramp. But yeah, it's not required, but we do recommend it. But as I said earlier, you may check your jurisdiction, because many times if you do put the drain at the front and you've removed the curb, they will require an ancillary drain, a secondary drain somewhere outside on the bathroom floor. So check with those. Certainly more commercial setting and multi-unit housing, high-rise, we see that requirement for that second drain. But no, not required, but recommended by the manufacturers of line drains.
That's a great answer. Not required, but recommended. And it's such a small little slope, you wouldn't even notice it in most situations. So that's great, great. All right, can a shower be barrier-free, yet not ADA compliant?
No, it can't. It's like, you know, we're old tile setters, Jim, and we always tell people, don't say you're going to give people a level floor unless you really mean level. Just say flat, right? So there is a distinction between flat and level, and here we do want to draw a distinction between the term barrier-free, because if you start using that terminology, you are actually telling people that there's no barrier to anyone of any ability or age or so forth. It is a barrier, no barriers to anyone using that particular environment. If you say curbless, that just means you're taking out the curb. So that would be probably the safer bet to use that terminology, unless you are actually building an ADA compliant shower. And then, you know, yeah, absolutely, toot your horn and let everybody know I'm practiced in the art of building barrier-free showers. I know about them. I know the design elements. I know the requirements there as far as dimensions and so forth. And yeah, certainly you could do that. And you can actually get your aging in place specialist. You could actually become a CAPS certified aging in place design specialist or installer specialist, and you can actually advertise yourself as such if you do actually build those.
Great answer. Great answer. All right. So let's see. How about this? Let's go to this right here. With that thin pan, did you say that they can go straight on the floor joist by taking out the subfloor?
You know what? There are those on the market. Those are starting to emerge. That's a European thing that I'm starting to see creep over into North America, which is interesting. It is actually a structural tray that goes directly over the joist. But the one I was showing and what's mostly available right now in our industry in North America right now, you actually remove the subfloor, which is typically 3/4 of an inch thick, like an oriented strand board, an OSB, or plywood even. You remove that from being on top of the joist, and you set that in between the joists on ledgers that you put on each side of the joist, just down the 3/4 of an inch thickness of the subfloor. And you put that, so now you bought yourself 3/4 of an inch. That, and then like the membranes that I showed in many of those pictures, they're about a 3/16 to a quarter of an inch thick. So now you have your 1-inch elevation change from your standard bathroom floor down into the recess where you'll put the thin tray. So yeah, that's a good question. They're starting to show up on the market, some of these structural shower trays where you really remove the subfloor and drop the tray in right on top of the joist. But mostly prevalent right now in North America, you actually recess the subfloor and put these trays directly on top of that. That's
okay,
a great question.
before we go any further, I want to make sure that everybody knows this is AIA and IDCEC accredited for 1 hour of CEU. And if you look on your chat screen or your question screen, you'll see I put, you can apply for that. I believe there's a number. Is there a number on there somewhere that they can use to self apply for that?
I would use the webinar ID, which is 503-050-347.
Cool. Otherwise, you could email me or Andy, and we'll definitely help you and get that taken care of. So I just wanted to say that quick. All right. Here's another question or a comment. A very small issue, but lots of people want a curbless design, but also a floor mat outside the shower. Unfortunately, the door swing sweeps away from the mat. Any thought on this? The mat stops the door from opening, right?
It does. It does. And really, the only option you have that's not exactly the best as far as design or aesthetics is to incorporate a little bit of a very thin, very short curb that's going to be just a little bit taller than your actual floor mat, so that when the sweep does, it'll sit on that when the door's closed, and when it swings open, it won't scoot your mat out of the way. Yeah, that's kind of unnerving that happens. But yeah,
yeah, there really, I mean, there isn't much you can do about that. I mean, I suppose, you know, at a commercial entryway to a building, sometimes you see those built-in mats, right, where they're cut down into the floor. You could do something like that, but I would think the cleaning of that and maintenance of that would be just take forever with the water and moisture and everything in there. So,
yeah,
but yeah, that's a problem. And when you're talking to your homeowner or your building owner or whatever, you do need to explain that if that's something that comes up. So that mat might have to be outside the length of the door. So
right. Or again, I've seen some they're not like a metal threshold, like if we're thinking about an exterior part to your home. They're typically made out of the same tile or panel or whatever you're incorporating into your design into the bathroom. And it just has to be a very narrow strip, not much wider than the actual shower door glass itself. So and not very tall, just tall enough to not knock your mat out of the way when you
exactly
open the door. But yeah, I've seen those on occasion. I've never put one in, but I've seen them in many pictures where they're putting that directly under the door when the door's shut, and the sweep actually touches on that piece and is able to open, and then just lands and rest on there.
All right. Last thing I want to say is that was not my bathroom that Andy showed, but I want you to know I do have a green, yellow, and black. What would you call that? It's very old. I have a 1938 home that has beautiful tile work in that will all be coming out in May as we are remodeling our bathrooms. So some of those new things you're just showing are going to be in my home later in the next couple months. So I want to thank everyone for attending. We do have another webinar coming up on May 9th. Please look for your invite for that. Andy, you did a fantastic job as always, and I look forward. I know you'll be back in September, or someone from Schluter will be back in September. Looking forward to that. Everybody have a great week. I hope it's warming up where you're at. The sun's out here in Minneapolis finally, so all is good. Andy, take care. Everybody here, thank you for attending.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.